More than 3,000 years ago, on this ancient land through which the Yellow River and the Yangtze flow, the early people faced a question more fundamental than war. Why does the world always keep changing? How should one find their place and live well within that change? They looked up at the heavens and surveyed the earth, from the turning of sun and moon, the cycling of the four seasons, the flourishing and withering of birds, beasts, grasses, and trees. They distilled a system of symbols to describe change. Then, through the wisdom of countless generations, they put those symbols into writing and added interpretations. This book later came to be called the I Ching, also known as the Book of Changes. Its relationship with Chinese culture is almost like air and breath. You may not speak of it every day, but it quietly shapes the Chinese way of thinking, their habits of speech, and their sense of what matters. Look at the name Zhou. Zhou means both the dynasty and the idea of coming full circle. Again and again, Yi means change. The title itself is saying, this is a classic about cycles and change. Today, what we are going to do is not teach you how to divine with coins or have you memorize all 64 hexagrams line by line. What we are going to do is truly understand what the I Ching is about, why it has endured for 3,000 years without fading, what its core ideas really are, and how those ideas can help you in today's fast-changing age see more clearly, think more clearly, and walk more steadily. The whole I Ching can be summed up in 8 characters. Observe the images and grasp their meaning. No change and hold to what is right. To observe images is to see the whole picture of a situation. To grasp meaning is to draw from that image guidance for human affairs. To know change is to understand that no situation stays the same forever. To hold to what is right is to keep a true direction and moral bottom line amid change. These 8 words run through every hexagram, and every line. You do not have to become a scholar. As long as you read with these 8 words in mind, you will not get lost in obscure terminology. Let us begin with the most basic question: what exactly is the I Ching? When many people hear the I Ching, their first thought is fortune-telling, feng shui, or occult arts. That impression is not entirely wrong, but it is far from the whole story, and not even the most important part. The I Ching is, first and foremost, a book about change. The character itself carries 3 layers of meaning. Bieni, everything is in flux. Bai, behind change there are patterns that do not change. Jieni, to express complex truths through the simplest symbols and words. Put these 3 meanings together, and you have the worldview of the I Ching. The world is changing, change follows laws, and grasping those laws lets you turn the complex into the simple. The text of the I Ching can be roughly divided into 2 major parts. One part is the Jing, the classic, the hexagrams, hexagram texts, and line texts, traditionally attributed to King I of Zhou and the Duke of Zhou, forming the core skeleton of the whole book. The other part is the Zhuan, the commentary, also called the 10 Wings, the commentaries of Confucius and his followers on the classic, taking a system of symbols once used for divination and raising it into a complete philosophical framework. Without the 10 Wings, the I Ching might have remained only an ancient manual of divination. With the 10 Wings, it became the first among the Confucian classics, one of the foundational texts through which the Chinese understand heaven, earth, and humanity. On the origins of the I Ching, tradition tells of the saying 3 sages across 3 ages, 3 eras through antiquity. In high antiquity, Fuxi drew the 8 trigrams. In middle antiquity, King I expanded them into 64 hexagrams and wrote the hexagram texts. In later antiquity, the Duke of Zhou wrote the line texts, and Confucius wrote the 10 Wings. Modern scholars generally hold that the I Ching is a text formed through long accumulation, its core taking shape in the Western Zhou, while the commentaries continued through the Warring States and into the Qian and Han. Whoever the specific authors may have been, one thing is certain: this book holds the deep memory of the Zhou dynasty's political rise and fall. Legend says King I was imprisoned by King Zhou of Shang for 7 years at Yoli, and in that desperate place expanded the 8 trigrams into 64. And wrote the hexagram texts. This is not mere romantic legend, it suggests the I Ching itself was born in hardship. When people are unfree and uncertain, they need all the more a way to understand change and settle the heart. The Duke of Zhou established ritual and music, and at the same time fixed the line texts, linking the results of divination to concrete human conduct. By the time of Confucius, ritual had collapsed and music had broken down, the old order was unraveling. And in his later years Confucius devoted himself most earnestly to the I Ching. He turned this book from a tool for asking good or ill fortune into a philosophy of cultivating oneself to bring peace to others. This shift decided the place of the I Ching in Chinese culture. It is both technique and way. It can be used for divination, but even more for self-cultivation. To understand the I Ching, we must begin with its most basic symbols. Everything starts with two of the simplest signs, yin and yang. Yin, shown by two broken lines, symbolizes gathering in, yielding, darkness, the feminine, stillness, the inner, the empty. Yang, shown by one unbroken line, symbolizes stretching forth, strength, light, the masculine, movement, the outer, the solid. This is not a simple opposition of good and evil, nor a rigid label for men and women, but a way of describing two basic qualities and states of things. Day is yang, night is yin, summer is yang, winter is yin, movement is yang, stillness is yin. Yet yin and yang are never absolute. Day holds shadow, night holds moonlight, movement holds stillness, stillness holds movement. The I Ching says, one yin and one yang, that is the way. It means a complete way must include the interplay and transformation of both forces. Yang alone cannot give birth, yin alone cannot grow. Only when yin and yang meet and depend on each other, can all things come into being and develop. Stack 3 yin or yang symbols together, and you form the 8 trigrams. The 8 trigrams are not 8 separate mystical signs, but 8 basic abstract models of natural and social situations. Qian is heaven, symbolizing creation, strength, and leadership. Qian is earth, symbolizing bearing, yielding, and inclusiveness. Zhou is thunder, symbolizing shock, rising up, and awakening. Sun is wind, symbolizing penetration, humility, and moving with the flow. Qian is water, symbolizing danger, flow, and wisdom. Li is fire, symbolizing light, attachment, and civilization. Zhen is mountain, symbolizing stopping, steadiness, and boundaries. Dui is lake, symbolizing joy, exchange, and speech. The trigrams also map onto family roles. Qian is the father, Qian the mother, Zhen the eldest son, Sun the eldest daughter, Qian the middle son, Li the middle daughter, Zhen the youngest son, Dui the youngest daughter. This structure shows that from the start, the I Ching wove together natural change, social order, and family ethics. It is not a cold game of symbols, but a model of human relationships. The 8 trigrams can be paired and stacked to form 64 hexagrams. Each hexagram has 6 lines, read from bottom to top, representing 6 stages in the growth of a thing or a situation from its first sprouting to its full development. The 64 hexagrams are 64 typical situations of change, and a gathering of wisdom on how to think and act within them. When reading the 64 hexagrams, there are several important methods of transformation to know. The Bengua is the hexagram you have now. A changing line is a yin-yang shift that produces a new hexagram. The Zhigua, showing where things are tending. The Hugua takes the middle 4 lines and forms a new hexagram, often revealing hidden structure within. The Qiogua reverses every line from yin to yang or yang to yin, representing the opposite side. The Zonggua turns the hexagram upside down, representing the same situation seen from another angle. These methods tell us the I Ching never treats any situation as fixed and unchanging. Within one hexagram there are already many perspectives and many possibilities. The I Ching also speaks of xiang image. Xiang is not simply a picture, but the joining of phenomenon and symbol. Each hexagram has a hexagram image. Heaven over water is Su, waiting, symbolizing patience. Fire below the mountain is Bai, adornment, symbolizing grace and ornament. Each line also has a small image. The image of a hidden dragon, do not act, is a dragon lying deep below. In the image commentary, Confucius again and again says, the noble person, thereby turning natural images into moral cultivation. As heaven moves with strength, the noble person ceaselessly strengthens himself. As earth is receptive, the noble person bears all things with deep virtue. Cloud and thunder, difficulty at the beginning, the noble person brings order to the world. A spring emerges below the mountain. Youthful folly, the noble person acts with resolve and nurtures virtue. Reading the I Ching through Xiang is a shortcut. You need not memorize every line text first. Feel the whole picture of the hexagram, and you will often grasp its spirit. Here is a key understanding. The hexagrams in the I Ching do not prophesy this is exactly what will happen to you, but describe what situation you are in now, how such a situation usually unfolds, and what attitudes and actions are fitting as it unfolds. They are more like maps of situations than verdicts that seal your fate. The first and second hexagrams of the 64, Qian and Qian, set the tone for the whole I Ching. Qian has 6 yang lines, symbolizing pure yang, creation, and heaven's ceaseless strength. Its hexagram text says Yuan, Heng, Li, Zhen, for words often read as origination, penetration, fitness, and firm correctness. It describes how a pure creative force moves from beginning to peak to the point of excess. Qian's most famous line is in the first 9, a hidden dragon, do not act, the dragon still lies hidden in the depths, the time is not yet ripe, store your strength, and do not move rashly. At the second 9, a dragon appears in the field, it furthers one to see the great person. The dragon shows itself in the open field, begins to reveal its power. This is the time to seek the regard and support of a worthy leader. At the third 9, the noble person is active and alert all day, and in the evening still cautious and watchful. No blame, you are rising but not yet secure, work diligently through the day, stay watchful at night, and you will avoid harm. At the fourth 9, he may leap from the depths, or he may stay below. No blame, you may spring upward, or remain in hiding, choosing flexibly according to the situation. At the fifth 9, a flying dragon in heaven, it furthers one to see the great person at the height of power, like a dragon soaring in the sky. This is the time to fulfill your aims, and shape the larger course of events. At the top 9, an arrogant dragon will have cause to repent. What is too hard must break. At the extreme, things turn, greatness at its peak fades, and so regret follows. The use of 9 says, a group of dragons appears with no head, good fortune when many dragons do not compete to be first, each giving what it can and working together. The result is auspicious from beginning to end. This hexagram tells the full life cycle of a thing, from hiding, emerging, striving, choosing, reaching fullness, to going too far, and the posture a person should take at each stage. Qian has 16 lines, symbolizing pure yin, bearing, and earth's receptive strength. If Qian is the initiator, Qian is the partner and bearer. Its hexagram text says Yuan Han, favorable to the perseverance of the mare. Like a mare, gentle yet steadfast on the right path, you will find penetration. Qian does not mean passivity, but utterly soft and still, yet square in virtue, achieving great things through yielding and inclusiveness. The second 6 says straight, square, and great, without practice. Nothing is unfavorable, upright, well-formed, and vast, even without deliberate artifice. Nothing goes against you. This speaks of inner character showing naturally, more reliable than forced display. The relation of Qian to Qian is heaven and earth working together, firm and yielding in balance. Without Qian's bearing, Qian's creation cannot take root. Without Qian's lead, Qian's yielding may lose direction. From here the I Ching already tells us, the strong must know how to create, and how to cooperate. The yielding must know how to bend, and how to hold their ground. After Qian and Qian come the third hexagram, Zhou, and the fourth, Meng, on birth and awakening. The fifth, Su, waiting, has water above heaven, clouds gather and rain has not yet fallen, symbolizing waiting. Its hexagram text says you have sincerity, brightness, and penetration. Correctness brings good fortune. It furthers one to cross the great water with sincerity in the heart, clarity and success follow. Hold to what is right and good fortune comes. It helps you cross the great river. Su teaches, when the time is not ripe, rushing does no good, but waiting is not empty waiting, it is waiting with sincerity and preparation. The first 9 says waiting in the meadow, perseverance furthers, no blame, wait in the outskirts, keep steady, and there is no harm. This speaks of the early stage, still far from the goal. Patience and accumulation matter. The second 9 says waiting on the sand, some gossip, but in the end good fortune. Wait on the sandbank, there may be small talk, yet the end is good. The fifth 9 says waiting with wine and food, correctness brings good fortune. Wait at ease over food and drink, hold to what is right and fortune follows. This is telling, waiting can also be calm and measured. You need not live in anxiety. Su reminds us, many failures come not from lack of ability, but from lack of patience, acting before the rain falls, and ending up soaked and sorry. The sixth hexagram, song, conflict, has heaven and water moving apart, symbolizing dispute. Song does not encourage lawsuits, but analyzes how conflict arises, and how it ends. Its hexagram text says if you have sincerity but it is blocked, be wary. Stopping midway brings good fortune, pressing to the end brings misfortune. It furthers one to see the great person, it does not further one to cross the great water. Sincerity is obstructed, stay alert, stop halfway and there is good fortune, fight to the bitter end and there is harm. The first 6 says if one does not perpetuate the affair, there is a little gossip, but in the end good fortune. Do not drag the quarrel on endlessly, though there may be small talk, the end is good. The point is, reconcile when you can, cut losses when you must, do not make winning the only aim. Song follows Su, wait when it is time to wait, stop when it is time to stop, both are signs of maturity. The seventh hexagram, sure, the army, has water within the earth, symbolizing troops, and the multitude sure speaks of how to lead many people, and how to use force. Its hexagram text says, correctness, an experienced elder brings good fortune, no blame, hold to what is right, let a seasoned, steady commander lead, and there is good fortune without fault. The third six says, the army may carry corpses in the wagon, misfortune and army returning with the dead is ominous, misfortune this means labor wasted, and heavy casualties sure reminds us, any team action needs legitimacy, discipline, and the right leader, otherwise the more people you gather, the greater the harm. The eighth hexagram, by union, has water on the earth, symbolizing closeness and solidarity. By stands opposite sure is discipline and campaign, by is drawing near and joining together. Its hexagram text says good fortune, consult the oracle again, everlasting correctness brings no blame, those who are restless come. Latecomers meet with misfortune, there is good fortune, but confirm again by divination, hold forever to the right path, no blame, the restless come to unite. Latecomers meet with misfortune, alliance should come early and be sincere, hesitate too long and the chance is lost. The second six of by says, hold to him inwardly, correctness brings good fortune, union from within, holding to what is right, is auspicious. True solidarity is not surface courtesy, but shared values and aims taken into the heart. When reading the I Ching, do not look only at hexagram names and hexagram texts, the line texts matter just as much, because within the same hexagram each stage is a completely different situation. Take Zhou as an example. Zhou is the hardship at the birth of all things, water below ground, cloud and thunder mingling, symbolizing the chaos and obstruction at the start of any venture. Its hexagram text says, Yuan, Hong, Li, Jin, do not use any goal too soon, it furthers one to set up lords. The larger direction is penetrating, but now is not the time for rash travel or large-scale action, it is the time to lay foundations and appoint leaders, in other words, build the team, and set the structure. The first nine says hesitation and hindrance, it furthers one to remain persevering and to appoint helpers firm as bedrock, hold to what is right and wait for the right time, it helps to establish leaders in the hardest moment. Do not panic, first steady the base. The second six says, difficulties pile up, horse and wagon pull apart, not robbers but suitors, the maiden is chaste and does not pledge herself, after 10 years she pledges herself. Advance and retreat, hesitation and pause, not bandits but a marriage party, the young woman stays chaste and does not marry, only after 10 years does she pledge herself. This describes the back and forth of early steps and the waiting. That looks like standing still but is really waiting for the true opening. Zhou tells us, every beginning is hard. When it is hard, what matters most is not speed, but whether the direction is right, and the foundation is solid. Ming speaks of awakening and education. Below the mountain a spring emerges, the water wells up but has not yet become a stream, symbolizing obscurity waiting to be opened. Its hexagram text says, penetration. I do not seek the youthful fool, the youthful fool seeks me. At the first oracle I inform, ask again and again is irreverence, if irreverent. I do not inform favorable to perseverance things flow, but it is not the teacher who runs after the ignorant youth, the youth comes to the teacher. Answer the first sincere inquiry, ask again and again, and that is disrespect, show disrespect, and no further answer is given. It favors holding to what is right. This is not only a rule of divination, but a rule of learning. The student must come with sincerity, the teacher gives fully only to those who are sincere and prepared. The fourth six says youthful folly that is hemmed in humiliation, trapped in ignorance, one meets regret. The fifth six says youthful folly, good fortune like a child who asks with an open heart, auspicious. The heart of Ming is this, when you do not yet know enough, admit your ignorance, seek teaching, far more auspicious than pretending you already understand everything. The ninth hexagram, shall soothe small accumulation, has wind above heaven, symbolizing modest gathering and store. The 10th, Luda treading, has heaven above the lake, symbolizing walking one's path and acting in the world. Lu speaks of how to move carefully. Its hexagram text says, treading on the tail of the tiger, it does not bite, penetration. Step on the tiger's tail, the tiger does not bite. There is success in a dangerous setting, move with yielding care, and you may pass through. Lu reminds us, some risks cannot be removed, you can only face them with the right bearing. The 11th hexagram, Tai, and the 12th, Pi, we have already spoken of them. The 13th, Tongren fellowship, has heaven above fire, symbolizing hearts aligned with others. The 14th, Dayun great possession, has fire above heaven, Symbolizing great gain, its hexagram text says supreme penetration. The larger direction opens. The fifth six says his sincerity is met with confidence, his authority is like that, good. Fortune meet others in sincerity, carry authority rightly, and fortune follows true. Great possession is not hoarding for yourself alone, but winning trust and making others willing to join with you. The 15th hexagram, Qian, modesty. We have already covered the 16th, Yu, enthusiasm, has thunder bursting from the earth, symbolizing joy and readiness. Yu reminds us, ease is allowed, but do not sink into indulgence. Preparation is good, but do not fall into needless anxiety. The Guan and Sheik hexagrams also deserve a closer look. Guan, wind moving across the earth, symbolizes observation and display. The Guan hexagram text says, washing the hands but not yet presenting the offering, with sincerity and solemn reverence at the sacrifice. Hands are washed but offerings not yet presented, with sincerity and solemn reverence. This means, true observation is not watching for entertainment, but observing with a sincere and reverent heart. The second line says, peering through a crack, favorable for a woman to remain steadfast. Peering through a door crack, favorable for a woman to remain steadfast. This means partial observation is inferior to comprehensive, open observation. Guan's lesson for us today: before making a decision, first see the whole picture. Don't rely on a glimpse from one corner alone. Sheik, thunder and lightning together, symbolizes biting through, punishment, and clearing blockages. The text says, success favorable for administering justice. Success favorable for administering justice. This means, when a system has an internal blockage, you must clear the obstacle decisively, like teeth biting through. Sheik does not encourage violence. It says, cut when you must cut, punish when you must punish. Tolerance of wrongdoing harms the entire system. The bihexagram speaks of adornment. Fire below the mountain, its light shining upon the slopes, symbolizing decoration, ritual, and outward beauty. The bihexagram text says, success, small benefit in going forward. Success, small benefit in going forward. The fifth line says, adorning the hill garden, with bundles of silk, meager and few, stinginess, yet ultimately auspicious. Adorning a hill garden with simple, modest gifts, though it may seem stingy, it ends well. This means, adornment must be measured. Excessive luxury loses the essence. By stands opposite simplicity, reminding us that beauty and ritual matter. But surface alone is not enough. The 23rd hexagram, Bo, shows a mountain resting upon the earth, symbolizing peeling away and erosion. Bo describes the process of decline, reminding us to hold fast to the root during a downward cycle. The 24th hexagram, Fu, shows thunder within the earth, symbolizing the return of a single young line and the renewal of all things. Fu is the hexagram of hope in the I Ching, saying success going out and coming in without illness. Friends arrive without blame, returning along the way. In 7 days comes the return, favorable to go forward. Success going out and coming in without illness. Friends arrive without blame, returning along the way. In 7 days comes the return, favorable to go forward. Fu tells us, when peeling reaches its limit, renewal follows. The darkest hour often holds the seed of turning. The key is to guard that one yang line, that single spark of fundamental life must not be extinguished. The Wu Wang hexagram speaks of authenticity without delusion. Thunder moving across the heavens, symbolizing nature and truth. The text says, great success through correctness. If not correct, there will be calamity. Not favorable to go forward. Great success through correctness. If not correct, there will be calamity. Not favorable to go forward. Wu Wang does not mean do nothing at all, but do not act recklessly or without cause. Act when action is called for, but let motive and method both be upright. The De Chu, Yi, and Digwa hexagrams, on great accumulation, nourishment, and excess, read together seem to ask, once you have resources, how do you sustain them, and how do you guard against going too far? Digwa says, the ridgepole is bent, favorable to go forward. Success, a bent ridgepole, favorable to go forward. Success, a bent ridgepole means pressure has nearly reached its limit. At such a moment, decisive action is required, or the whole structure will collapse. The Tai and Pi hexagrams are a pair of opposite situations in the I Ching, and they reveal the rhythm by which fortune turns Tai, heaven and earth in communion, earth's energy rising, heaven's energy descending, yin and yang interacting, symbolizing openness, harmony, and smooth passage. Pi, heaven and earth not meeting, each holding its place without exchange, symbolizing blockage, obstruction, and difficulty. Interestingly, Tai's third line says, no level ground without a slope, no going Fourth, without a return, there is no road that stays flat forever, no journey that goes out and never comes back. When openness reaches its peak, it turns toward blockage. When blockage reaches its peak, it turns toward openness. This is called when things reach an extreme, they reverse. One of the I Ching's most important insights: it does not mean we can only passively wait for the cycle, but reminds us, in good times, do not grow careless. In hard times, do not despair and give up, because change is always underway. The Qian hexagram is widely regarded as the most auspicious of the 64. A mountain hidden within the earth, high peaks concealed below the surface, symbolizing humility from the first line to the sixth. Nearly every line in Qian is favorable. That is exceedingly rare in Chinese tradition. Qian teaches us, true strength does not need to show itself at every moment. True talent knows when to hold back its edge. The fifth line says, not enriching oneself at the expense of neighbors. Favorable for action, nothing unfavorable. Not pressing others down with wealth, yet able to act with ease, nothing unfavorable. This speaks of winning people through virtue, not through force of position. In an age when everyone is eager to perform, and eager to get ahead, Qian's wisdom is especially precious. You do not need to win every argument, nor stand out in every comparison. Keep to your proper role, respect others, work steadily, and you will often go farther. The Shui hexagram speaks of following. Lake above, thunder within is symbolizing following and yielding to the times. The Shui hexagram text says, great success through correctness, no blame. The overall direction is favorable, hold to what is right, and there is no calamity. But following is not blind obedience. The first line says, official duties change. Correctness brings good fortune. Going out to meet others brings achievement. When office shifts, steadfastness brings good fortune. Going out to engage with others brings achievement. This means, in change, adapt actively, do not cling rigidly to the old order. The third line says, attached to the husband, losing the child. Following brings what is sought. Favorable to remain steadfast, holding to the greater bond while releasing the lesser. Following brings what you seek. Favorable to remain steadfast. This means, following the right person and the right direction matters more than following the wrong one. Shui's wisdom is this: life cannot be led by you alone in every matter. Learning when to follow, cooperate, and borrow momentum on the right things is an essential skill. The 17th hexagram, Gu, speaks of accumulated decay and renewal. Wind below the mountain, blocked by the peak, symbolizing troubles that have built up inside over time. Gu's original meaning is worms in a vessel, by extension, corruption, disorder, and a state that needs repair. Gu is not simply an ill omen, it says, when a system shows problems, that is precisely when reform is needed. The text says, great success. Favorable to cross the great stream 3 days before the Jia day, 3 days after. Auspicious, the overall direction is favorable. Favorable to cross the great stream. Plan carefully 3 days before and 3 days after the Jia day, and all will be well. Reform requires thorough preparation and follow through. It cannot be rushed. The fourth line says, leniently tolerating the father's decay. Going forward brings regret. Tolerating a father's accumulated rot, going forward brings regret. This reminds us, indulgence toward deep-seated decay is not mercy. Cut when you must cut. Gu speaks directly to organizational management and personal habit today. Problems do not vanish on their own. Identify the source, reform decisively, that is the right path. The 18th hexagram, Lin, shows earth above the lake, symbolizing approach and oversight. Lin asks how a leader should approach those below. The text says, great success through correctness. By the 8th month, there will be misfortune. The overall direction is favorable, hold to what is right, yet by the 8th month, misfortune comes. Governance cannot be done once and forgotten, vigilance must be sustained. Lin's third line says, approaching with sweet words, nothing favorable if one then grows concerned and corrects, no blame. Approaching those below with sweet flattery, nothing favorable if one then grows concerned and corrects, no calamity. This means, leadership cannot rely on pleasing people alone, it requires real substance. The 19th hexagram, Guan, wind across the earth. We have already discussed the way of observation. The 20th, Shik, thunder and lightning. We have already discussed clearing blockages. Together with Lin, these three form a complete instruction on seeing, deciding, and governing. First observe, then bite through, then oversee. The order must not be reversed. The Xian and Hung hexagrams speak of feeling and endurance. Xian, lake above the mountain, symbolizing resonance, and love. The Xian text says, success, favorable to remain steadfast. Taking a wife brings good fortune. Success, favorable to remain steadfast. Taking a wife brings good fortune. This means, true resonance is not a moment's impulse, but a bond held in righteousness hung thunder and wind, symbolizing constancy. The text says, success. No blame, favorable to remain steadfast. Favorable to go forward. Success, no blame, favorable to remain steadfast. Favorable to go forward. Hang is not stubborn refusal to change, but holding to the right path, persistence in the correct direction. Hang's third line says, not constant in virtue, one may suffer disgrace. Steadfastness brings regret. Unable to hold to virtue, one may bear shame. Even steadfastness brings regret. This means, persistence without principle is not constancy, it is obstinacy. The Dun and Dezhuang hexagrams speak of retreat in advance. Dun, heaven above, mountain below, symbolizing withdrawal. Dezhuang, thunder in the heavens, symbolizing great strength. Dun is not running away, but knowing when to step back. Dezhuang is not brute force, but true strength lies in righteousness. Dezhuang's third line says, the petty use force, the noble do not. Steadfastness brings danger. A ram butts the hedge, its horns are entangled. The small-minded use raw power, the noble refrain. Steadfastness brings danger. A ram charging a fence, its horns are entangled. This means, when you are strong, the easiest mistake is to meet force with force. Qian and Ming Yi form a pair of light and shadow. Qian, fire upon the earth, symbolizing ascent, and brightness. Ming Yi, fire beneath the earth, symbolizing wounded light and keeping brilliance concealed. Ming Yi asks how to protect yourself in a dark age. The text says, favorable to endure hardship with steadfastness. Favorable to endure hardship with steadfastness. The second line says, Ming Yi, wounded in the left thigh, rescue with a strong horse. Auspicious, light injured, wounded in the thigh, rescue with a swift, strong horse. Auspicious. This means, when setbacks come, preserving strength and moving quickly is wiser than standing rigid and taking the blow. Ming Yi's lesson for today, when conditions are unfavorable, you need not display your edge everywhere. Sometimes to conceal is preparation for later brightness. The Qian and Li hexagrams are a pair opposite yet complementary. Qian is water, 2 Qian trigrams stacked, symbolizing danger and entrapment. Li is fire, 2 Li trigrams stacked, symbolizing radiant light and clinging. Qian teaches how to move forward through peril. The text says, repeated Qian with sincerity, the heart attains success. Action wins respect, moving again and again through danger, with sincerity in the heart. Inner success follows, action earns regard. The fourth line says, a simple jug of wine, a bowl of rice, served in earthenware, brought through the window. In the end, no blame. Modest wine and food, offered plainly through the window. Ultimately, no calamity. This means, in danger, sincerity matters more than display. Li speaks of brightness and attachment. The text says, favorable to remain steadfast. Success, tending the cow like a mother. Auspicious, favorable to remain steadfast. Success, gentleness like a mother cow. Auspicious, fire must cling to something in order to burn. People must cling to the right path, and the right companions in order to shine. Qian and Li in succession say, life will have danger, yet danger can hold faith. After darkness, light must find the right support. The Zhou and Kuei hexagrams speak of union and division in family and relationships. Zhou, wind rising from fire, symbolizing family ethics. The text says, favorable for the woman to remain steadfast. Favorable for the woman to remain steadfast, that carries the color of its age, yet its core, when the family is set right, the world is settled, still holds meaning. Family order is the foundation of social order. Kuei, fire above, lake below, symbolizing estrangement and disagreement. Kuei is not purely ill-fated, it says, differing views are normal, the key is how to keep communication alive within the divide. Kuei's third line says, the carriage is dragged back, the ox is held back, the person is punished, no good beginning, yet a good end. The cart pulled back, the ox restrained, the person suffering a poor start, yet a good finish. In disagreement there will be friction, but if communication persists, resolution can come. The Jian and Zhe hexagrams form a pair, hardship and relief. Jian, water upon the mountain, symbolizing a difficult road. Zhe, thunder and rain, symbolizing the lifting of difficulty. Jian teaches how to stop and turn inward to cultivate virtue and hardship. Zhe teaches that once difficulty lifts, revenge must not go too far. Pardon faults and forgive crimes, leaving room for repentance. Sun and Yi speak of decrease and increase. Sun says, decrease below to enrich above, its way moves upward. He says, decrease above to enrich below, the people rejoice without limit. True gain often begins with loss, diminish yourself to benefit others, decrease from above to enrich below. This resonates with modern management's subtract first, without learning to let go, you cannot truly add. The Koan hexagram speaks of adversity, water gone from the marsh, symbolizing depleted resources, and a hard situation. Koan does not say you are doomed to fail, but asks, when you are already trapped, how should you conduct yourself? The text says, success through steadfastness. The great person is auspicious, no blame, yet words may not be believed. Success lies in steadfastness. The noble person is auspicious, without calamity, though what is said may not be trusted. The second line says, trapped amid feasting, official robes soon to arrive, favorable for the sacrificial rite, going forth brings misfortune, no blame. Trapped amid feasting, yet official robes will come, favorable for the sacrificial rite, going forth brings misfortune, no blame. In adversity, do not indulge in pleasure, nor break out too hastily, hold to your role and wait for the right moment. Kuan reminds us, adversity is the touchstone of character, and the furnace that reshapes a person. Many swell in good times, many grow truly only in hardship. The Jing hexagram speaks of shared resources and the public good. The text says, the town may change, but the well does not move, no loss, no gain. People come and go, drawing water. Towns may shift, the well's place remains, nothing is lost, nothing gained. People pass back and forth to draw water. Some things are immovable foundations, such as knowledge, character, and public resources. The second line says, the well shaft shoots at a minnow. The pitcher is worn and leaking, shooting small fish at the bottom of the well, with a broken, leaking jug. Resources are not put to proper use, or the vessel itself is flawed. Even the finest water cannot reach those who need it. Jing's lesson for today, building sustainable public value, matters more than short-term profit and the vessel that carries value. Institutions, teams, personal character must be sound, or even the best ideas cannot be delivered. The Gu and Ding hexagrams speak of revolution and establishing the new Gu fire within the lake, symbolizing revolution and transformation. The text says, on the G day, then there is sincerity, great success through correctness. Regret vanishes on the appointed day, sincerity arrives, the overall direction is favorable, hold to what is right, and regret disappears. Gu is not change for its own sake, but change in accord with heaven and responsive to the people. Ding, fire above wood, symbolizing renewal and establishing a new order. Gu breaks the old, Ding builds the new. Read together, they describe the full arc of transformation. First break, then build. Break without build brings chaos, build without break brings rigidity. The 55th hexagram, foam, symbolizes abundance. Foam warns, abundance failed, the sun at noon tilts toward the west in fullness, see that sunset follows. The 56th, Lu, symbolizes travel, and wandering. Lu says, small success, travel with steadfastness brings good fortune. Modest success, travel with steadfastness is auspicious in unstable conditions. Steadfastness matters more than expansion. The 57th and 58th hexagrams, sun and dui, repeat wind and lake, deepening the lessons of yielding and joyful exchange. Sun speaks of repeatedly proclaiming the command and acting, stating the charge again and again, gently yet deeply. Dui speaks of friends discussing and practicing together, learning through exchange and shared delight. The GG and WG hexagrams are the second to last and the final hexagrams of the 64. That ordering itself carries meaning. What seems finished is not truly finished. GG, water and fire in balance, symbolizing success already achieved, yet WG follows immediately. Water and fire not yet in balance, symbolizing work still incomplete, effort still required. The I Ching does not end with GG, but ends with WG, saying, completion is relative, change is absolute, no permanent finish line, only an ongoing process. GG's second line says, the woman loses the curtain of her carriage, do not chase it, in 7 days it will be regained. A lost carriage screen, no need to pursue, in 7 days it returns. Even in success, accept small losses, perfection in every detail is not required. Wei Ji says, success. The little fox nearly crosses the river, but wets its tail. Nothing favorable, the little fox almost crosses the river, yet the tail is soaked, no benefit near. Success is when slackness comes easiest, one lapse and the work collapses. At the final step to close the book with Wei Ji, is the I Ching's final statement on the philosophy of change. Always keep the mind of the unfinished, always hold reverence for change. At this point, we return to a question many people care about: how was the I Ching actually used? How did the ancients turn to this book? In the age when the I Ching took shape, people did indeed use divination to ask about fortune and misfortune. The traditional method used the great numbers, 50 yarrow stalks, divided and counted, through prescribed steps, to arrive at a 6-line hexagram, then interpreted through the hexagram and line texts. The great number is 50, of which 49 are used. The one left unused was later understood as the reserve of the supreme ultimate or the way, a fundamental root held back within. Change later this was simplified to 3 coins, shaken 6 times to form a hexagram. Each throw of 3 coins yields 4 possibilities, all heads, all tails, 2 heads 1 tail, 2 tails 1 head, corresponding to old yang, old yin, yang yang, and yang yin. Old yang and old yin become changing lines. Divination itself is not the goal is the ritual, in the solemn act of asking, to clarify the question, quiet the mind, and then use the imagery of the hexagram and line texts to trigger deep reflection on one's own situation. If today you want to use the Book of Changes to reflect on a question, you need not follow every ritual to the letter, but it helps to keep a few steps in mind first. Make your question specific. Don't ask, "What will my entire life be like?" but ask something you can think about and act on, like, "Should I take this new job?" Second, quiet your mind before you divine or draw a hexagram. Sit in silence for a few minutes and let restless thoughts fall away. Third, once you have your hexagram, begin with the name, the judgment, the commentary on the decision, and the great image, to grasp the whole situation. Then read each line and notice which one is the changing line. The changing line is often the heart of the moment. Fourth, don't stop at the single words good fortune or misfortune, but ask, what situation is this hexagram describing? What attitude does it suggest I take? Fifth, return at last to yourself. What insight does this reading offer me? What might I do next? Through these 5 steps, the Book of Changes shifts from an answer book to a book of questions. Confucius said, when the noble person is at rest, he studies the images and ponders the words. When he moves, he watches how things change and reflects on the divination in daily life. Study the hexagram images and the text. When you act, watch for change and let the reading inform you. The emphasis falls on ponder the words. Play, here, does not mean a game, but to taste and turn something over, again and again, until it opens in the mind. The great modern psychologist Carl Jung was deeply fascinated by the Book of Changes. He believed the divinatory logic of the Book of Changes shared something with his concept of synchronicity. When you bring a sincere question to the oracle, the hexagram you receive in that moment and your inner state share a meaningful connection, not a matter of cause and effect, but of synchronicity. The judgment texts and line texts are like a mirror, helping you see feelings and judgments you had only dimly grasped before. So even if you do not put faith in heavenly secrets, you may still treat the Book of Changes as a tool for deep reflection. It compels you to shift your angle, to use an ancient language of images, to describe your situation, and the describing itself can bring insight. The 10 wings of the Book of Changes, 10 commentaries in all, lifted a book of divination into a philosophical classic. Among them, the appended phrases is most important. It sets out the principles of the Book of Changes systematically. It says, change has the supreme ultimate. This generates the 2 primary forces. The 2 generate the 4 images. The 4 generate the 8 trigrams. This is the familiar Chinese schema of cosmic becoming, from the formless to the supreme ultimate, from the ultimate to yin and yang, from yin and yang to the 4 images, from the 4 images to the 8 trigrams, from the 8 trigrams to the 10,000 things. It also says, what is above physical form is called the way, what is within physical form is called the vessel. The way is the unseen pattern, the vessel is the concrete thing. A person should grasp the way, and also skillfully use the vessel. It also says, when exhausted, change. Through change, there is penetration. Through penetration, endurance. When you reach an end, you must change. Through change, things open. Through opening, they endure. This is the Book of Changes affirming transformation. Change is not disaster, but a way forward. The discussion of the trigrams explains how the 8 trigrams correspond to nature and human affairs. The sequence of hexagrams explains why one hexagram follows another, and why this hexagram comes after that one. For example, the sequence says, heaven and earth exist, and then the 10,000 things are born. What fills heaven and earth is only the 10,000 things, hence Zhou follows. Zhou means fullness. It is the beginning of things. Once Qian and Qian are in place, things are born. The world fills with things, so Zhou comes next, fullness, the start of life. It also says, when things are born, they must be immature, hence Meng follows. Birth brings innocence and obscurity, so Meng follows. Read this way, the sequence turns the 64 hexagrams into one great narrative of change. The miscellaneous hexagrams sum up each hexagram in paired lines, such as Qian is firm, Qian is yielding, Bai brings joy, Shi brings sorrow. Lin and Guan share their meaning with Dezhuang. These Commentaries help later readers see the 64 hexagrams are not piled at random, but follow an inner logic of change, from the birth of Qian and Qian, through the enlightenment of Zhou and Meng, through many human situations, to the cycle of Ji and Wei Ji. The Book of Changes also concerns number and principle. Number is the rhythm and structure of change. Principle is the reason behind change. Song-era thinkers such as Xiaoyong, Zhou Dunyi, Cheng Yi, and Zhu Xi linked the Book of Changes with the Taiji diagram, the river chart, and the Luo river writing, building a refined system of image, number, and principle. We need not enter their intricate calculations, but one point is worth grasping: the Book of Changes tries to bridge what can be felt in image and what can be said in principle, to build a bridge between them. What you see in phenomena has a pattern that can be named. The pattern you grasp will show itself in phenomena. This way of thinking shaped later Chinese astronomy, calendrics, medicine, and art. Traditional Chinese medicine speaks of yin and yang, the 5 phases, and treatment by pattern. It shares the Book of Changes' sense of change. Chinese painting balances emptiness and fullness, leaves open space. It too reflects the Book of Changes' play of image and void. Additionally, the Book of Changes speaks of the 12 waxing and waning hexagrams. 12 hexagrams map to the 12 months of the year, as yin and yang rise and fall like the turning seasons. One yang appears in the month of Zi, corresponding to Fu. Yang grows until it reaches its peak in Qian. One yin appears in the month of Wu, corresponding to Go. Yin grows until Bo. Then Fu begins again. This cycle links the rhythm of heaven and earth to rise and fall in human affairs, reminding us every ascent has a peak, every descent a turning point. The key is to know where you stand in the cycle, and not be misled by a moment's warmth or cold. If we distill the wisdom of the Book of Changes into principles you can carry away, they might read like this: first, accept change as the norm. Do not expect lasting stability once and for all, nor panic at every swing. Tai and Pi alternate, rise and fall, return. That is the world's true face. Second, look for patterns within change, the waxing and waning of yin and yang, extremes turning back, firmness and yielding in balance. These patterns recur. Once you see the pattern, you are less dragged about by surface appearances. Third, let action follow the situation. Hidden dragon, do not act does not mean never act, but not yet. Flying dragon in heaven does not mean always soaring, but now you may. The same you, at different stages, needs a completely different strategy. The Book of Changes rejects one formula for every place and time, and favors what fits the moment, the place, and the person. Fourth, integrity matters more than shortcuts. The character Jin appears again and again in the Book of Changes, upright, steadfast, favorable to be firm. It does not forbid striving, but insists that the way of striving be upright, and the foundation sound. A clever trick may work for a while, only the right path can hold over the long run. Fifth, know advance and retreat, know what to take and what to leave. Jen speaks of stopping, DUI of delight. In life we choose when to stop, when to move, when to speak, when to listen. The top line of Qian warns, a proud dragon will have cause to regret if you do not know when to stop. Regret follows. Sixth, stay humble and open. The humility hexagram is nearly all auspicious. Meng stresses asking to learn. Once you think you know everything, you close the door to change. The Book of Changes is patient with not knowing, and wary of pretending to know. Seventh, seek timely centrality. Timely centrality is among the Book of Changes' highest standards, meaning the right measure, the fitting middle way for the moment, not muddled compromise, not smoothing everything over, but finding the one point most fitting to the situation. The fifth line of Qian in the center, the fifth line of Qian and humility, both are signs of good fortune. Too firm leads to excess, too soft leads to drowning. Only timely centrality endures. These principles can be lived out in daily work and life and a career. The life cycle of Qian reads almost like a career growth handbook. At entry, hidden dragon, speak little, do much, build skill with some foundation. Dragon appearing in the field, seek a platform and mentors who see you in the ascent, pressing on day after day. Stay alert, do not slacken after small gains. Only when you can stand on your own is it time to fly in heaven. Move too early, shine too brightly, and you may meet the proud dragon's regret. At the same time, Qian reminds you to serve the team, carry the organization's aim. Not every moment demands being first, sometimes the finest supporter is irreplaceable. Value all the same. In relationships, the alternation of Tai and Pi reminds us, closeness and distance, harmony and friction all belong to the rhythm. Do not declare a bond dead after a cool spell, nor ignore trouble because things feel warm just now. Sway reminds you to choose whom you walk with, and which values you walk by. Gu warns, long accumulated small habits, small misunderstandings, left alone, can eat a relationship like worms in a vessel. They need regular clearing and honest talk in decisions and startups. Zhou is where most new things begin, hard, but worth holding to if the direction is sound. Qian is a stage most founders know, resources tight, little understanding, when guarding the core matters more than blind expansion, and keeping trust matters most. Jing asks, are you digging a well or a shallow puddle? Can your value keep flowing? Is it easy for others to draw from? Wei Ji reminds us, even after launch, company profit, still nothing is simply done. Markets, technology, and users keep shifting. Unfinished business remains the norm. At the level of mind and feeling, the Book of Changes offers a language deeper than positive thinking. You are not simply a failure, you are bound in a situation, you are not merely unlucky, you are in a time of pi. You need not overturn everything at once, you may stay hidden for a while. Change the words, and you often change the mood. Mood shifts behavior, behavior can shift the situation, and when behavior shifts, the situation may follow. This is not empty comfort, but the Book of Changes' clear sense that situation and mind shape each other. The Book of Changes also shaped Chinese speech and habit of mind, phrases we use every day. When pi reaches its limit, tai arrives, strive unceasingly, great virtue carries all, repair the roof before the rain, tiger-like watchfulness, a host of dragons with no head, clouds move and rain falls, brightness injured, fellowship, hold to the right, adapt with change, timely centrality. Many come from the Book of Changes or later commentaries. When you say there's a real obstacle here, you are already using its imagery. When you say it's not the time yet, wait, you are living the wisdom of Zhou. When you say don't get arrogant, know when to stop, you hear the top line of Qian. To read the Book of Changes is also to read the depths of our mother tongue, and the frameworks we use every day without naming them. In investing in wealth, the Book of Changes gives no buy or sell points, but it offers a sense of rhythm. In Tai, do not grow proud. In Pi, do not abandon hope. In Sun, know when to stop. In I, no moderation. Buffett said, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. That rhymes with the turn from Tai to Pi. With Bo and Fu in leadership, Lin teaches how to stand above those you lead, Sure how to command, Bai how to unite, Gu how to reform, Jing how to build something. Others can depend on. A good leader is not one fixed style, but can shift with the hexagram of the hour. Wait when waiting is right, change when change is needed, retreat or advance as the moment asks. In marriage and family, Hong speaks of lasting commitment, Qian of mutual feeling, Jiarun of roles and care within the home. Modern households need not copy ancient hierarchy, but the spirit of setting the household right, each person in place, each doing their part, each respecting the others. Still matters. Kuei reminds us, disagreement is inevitable, the task is not to erase it, but to keep it from tearing people apart. In health, he speaks of nourishment, Jen of stopping, enough is enough, movement and rest, tonifying and clearing, all call for timely centrality, the right measure, which is one of the Book of Changes' core gifts, not extremes, but what fits the time. Of course, we should say this plainly, the Book of Changes carries the limits of its age. Born in an agrarian society and a clan order, some of its language carries patriarchal and hierarchical tones. Certain lines use the woman as metaphor in ways that show bias. When we read it, we should take its philosophy and method, not transplant 3,000-year-old social rules unchanged into today. Likewise, if we treat it as a tool to predict stocks, lottery numbers, or exam scores, we misunderstand it and will likely be disappointed. The Book of Changes offers wisdom for situations, not numerical answers. Another common mistake, equating the Book of Changes with pure mysticism, as if knowing the hexagrams could lift you above the world. On the contrary, the Book of Changes is thoroughly this worldly. It asks how to act in a concrete place, how to live with people and with the forces of nature, how to find direction amid imperfection. It does not ask you to leave life behind. It asks you to live with clearer eyes. The Book of Changes speaks of the three powers, heaven, earth, and humanity. The way of the three powers is a basic frame through which Chinese culture sees the world. Heaven, seasons change, earth has its risks and advantages, and humans choose. Humans stand between heaven and earth. They cannot simply decree fate, nor passively accept whatever comes, but with knowledge of heaven and earth do what humans can do. This is neither pure fatalism, nor blind faith that will alone conquers all, but the wisdom of moving in time with change. Respect the pattern, use your agency and within the bounds the pattern allows, seek the best outcome. In modern terms, see the constraints, and optimize within them. That sounds like common sense, yet the Book of Changes says it fully through 64 hexagrams at last. Let me close tonight's sharing with a few stories. The first story is about King Wen. Tradition says Wen was imprisoned at Yoli. In 7 years of captivity, he expanded the 8 trigrams into 64, and wrote the judgments. A man who lost his freedom completed his greatest work. This echoes the spirit of Ming Yi, Qian, and Qian. The darkest hours are often when thought runs deepest, and change becomes most possible. The second story is about Confucius. Tradition says he studied the Book of Changes in his later years, read the appended phrases, and sighed, saying if only he could have truly learned the changes at 50, he might have avoided great errors. In other words, if he had understood change sooner, the grave mistakes of a life might have been fewer. Sima Qian's records tell us, Confucius edited the odes and documents, settled ritual and music, and praised the changes. Whatever the exact history, one thing is clear: Confucius rescued the Book of Changes from mere divination, and made it a philosophy for self-cultivation. He said, "If I could have a few years more, at 50, to study the changes, I could be free of great fault." He also said, "The noble person may be faulted in heaven by his words, faulted on earth by his deeds, faulted in heaven by words, so he does not blame heaven, faulted on earth by deeds, so he does not blame others. Do not blame heaven, do not blame others. In change, turn and examine yourself." That is how the spirit of the Book of Changes lives in character. A third story comes from Guan Lu in the Book of Jing. Guan Lu was a master of the Book of Changes in the Three Kingdoms period, but he was not merely fortune-telling. He used hexagrams to read affairs among people, and urged them toward virtue. Once he saw dark qi on a man's face, asked why, and the man hid the truth. Soon after, trouble came. This tale is often told to mystify the Book of Changes, but we can read another lesson. To observe signs is, at bottom, to observe heart and conduct. Change shows first in small things, and someone with experience and attention can see the sprout before the storm breaks that matches the spirit of seeing the subtle and acting. In the Book of Changes, the 64 hexagrams are like 64 mirrors. They do not show a fixed fate, but shifting situations and possible choices. Qian's strength, Qian's yielding, Tai giving way to Pi, humility gaining where fullness loses, being bound yet not losing what may still prosper. After Gg, Wei Ji still lies ahead. 3,000 years later, dynasties have turned, technologies have changed, yet people still face beginnings and endings, smooth paths and setbacks, cooperation and conflict, the known and unknown. As long as that remains true, the Book of Changes will still have readers, and still have something to say. I hope tonight's telling has helped you open the door to the Book of Changes, not to make you a fortune teller, but to give you another language for understanding the world, to see structure within uncertainty, to hold to what is right amid change, to keep patience in hardship, and clarity in good fortune. Reading the Book of Changes is ultimately not about knowing what tomorrow will bring, but about knowing more clearly today. Where am I now? How should I meet this moment? If you wish to go deeper later, there is no need to rush through the whole book at once. You might return again and again to a few hexagrams that fit your present life. Zhou for a beginning, Su for waiting, Qian for hardship, Gu for reform, Du for success, Gg and Wei Ji for closing a chapter. You might read one hexagram each day, 64 days for a full turn, like a calendar moving with change, where you might wait for a major decision. Consult once with full seriousness, write down your reading and your choice, and look back after some time has passed. Whichever path you choose, the heart of it is this: treat the Book of Changes as living wisdom, not a dead answer. This is the Book of Changes, a book about change, a book that teaches how to stand firm within change. May you, in your own life, as Qian says, heaven moves with strength, the noble person strives unceasingly, as Qian says, earth is yielding, the noble person carries great virtue in a changing world. Be both resolute and generous. Perhaps that is the most precious gift the Book of Changes leaves to each of us today. Change will not stop, and questions will not run out, but if you are willing to observe, to learn, and to hold to what is right at the decisive moment, this ancient book will still meet you each time you open it, with a fresh response.